Good morning, everybody. I am going to try to show you today how to draw the Americas. And why I want to do this is because several of you really you hate maps, you don't want to do maps, and I played around with this morning and I think I came up with some tricks that might help. So what I'm going to suggest, first of all, see if you can track down a few sheets of paper. You're going to need at least two, and if you think you're going to make mistakes, you're going to maybe even want more than that. Or make sure you got pencil, eraser, something like that, and I think we can do this. Hit pause at any time if you need to, like right now, go get paper, or as we're going through this, if you have to erase something or start over. So what I've done is I've done some things on some whiteboard, and I'm going to transfer off of my image and go to whiteboard. Okay, what the heck is this? Well, I would like you to take a sheet of paper and about 2/3 of the way up, you want to draw a diagonal line from the left-hand side to the bottom center, and just a tiny bit higher, a diagonal line from the right-hand side, and they meet here. Oh, by the way, we're drawing maps. We're not worried about being exact. We're just trying to get some rough ideas here. So you do that one first. You can hit pause for a while you are sketching that out. And then once you are done, you can start again. So here we go, starting again. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, I made two little marks on here. Just above where this line is starting, we're doing a little bump here. That's Alaska. I did not draw the Aleutian Islands, which would go off of here. But that is Alaska. On this side, we got this thing that looks a little bit like a mouth. That is the Gulf of St. Lawrence, the St. Lawrence River, the one that goes up by Alexandria Bay and Clayton, up in the northern part of New York. That flows out of this into the Atlantic Ocean. To the north of that is a Canadian province called Newfoundland and Labrador. And then to the south of it, this is still Canada. So those are two reference points to start with. You can pause, sketch that. Moving on. Oh, that smudged a little. So I have here's our mouth, here's our Alaska. I've done the Alaskan coast and the north coast of Canada. This is Hudson Bay. It's a horrible Hudson Bay. Then we've got northeastern Canada here, Gulf of St. Lawrence, east coast. The United States starts about here. Here's Florida. Florida actually shouldn't quite be on the line. It should be just a little bit to the left of the line. Here is the Gulf of Mexico. Now we're into right about here. It becomes Mexico. This is the Yucatan Peninsula. And then Central America continues down, makes a point. Really, it's a little to the right of where this is, but we're just doing a rough reference. The West Coast, much easier. Mexico kind of just does a little curvy line up to here. You get a bump out here. That's the Baja Peninsula. Go up here through California, Oregon, Washington, Western Canada, and you're back to Alaska. You can sketch that out and pause while you're doing it. Okay, now we've basically got what I already drew, and I added the Great Lakes. Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, which is actually bigger than Lake Ontario, at least in terms of surface area, Lake Huron, Lake Michigan, and Lake Superior. You can sketch those in. Okay, now for some fun. We've got our North America map, Great Lakes. I drew in the St. Lawrence River. I skipped some big rivers. The Mississippi goes here. I skipped the Rocky Mountains because there weren't really any civilizations that grew up in them, but they go along the west coast of North America. I skipped the Appalachian Mountains here, which includes the Adirondacks and Catskills, which are in New York State. But anyways, what I did want to do is point out where some key things that are either relative to the civilizations we are looking at in this unit or that are important to be able to locate so that you can find things on the map. So we start with Florida. Florida is kind of the Italy of North America. It's the thing you can always find. So here's Florida, 1. Alaska, 2. Newfoundland and Labrador, 3. The Yucatan Peninsula, I'm going to draw a line to it, 4. The Gulf of St. Lawrence, 5. The Baja Peninsula, 6. The Great Lakes, for this whole region here, I'm not going to make a circle, but that is 7. The Gulf of Mexico, 8. The Caribbean Sea, 9. I would point out, of course, that over here to the west is the Pacific Ocean, to the east is the Atlantic Ocean, up here in the north is the Arctic Ocean. There's a whole lot of giant islands up here. Greenland is considered part of the North American plate, and that's up here. So there's a lot more than what's on this map, but it's a place to start. So you can sketch all that in. You could draw out the key here if you want, write it out so that you have a reference for later on. And now we are also going to add our civilizations. So in this unit, if you have been keeping up, you have looked at the Olmec. That's the first of the American civilizations, and they developed just north of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico along the Gulf of Mexico. So we're going to put an A there. A. Second up, the Mayans. They developed their civilization on the Yucatan Peninsula right about here. B. The Aztec in the Valley of Mexico right about here. I skipped over Teotihuacan. That is what the Aztecs considered to be their classical civilization, what they grew out of. So they're kind of in the same location as the Aztecs. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Can I spell it without it in front of me? Teotihuacan. That might be wrong. No spell check there. Okay, we did not look at the Iroquois. I didn't even copy those pages out of the book. They have never made a Regents exam, and they won't in the future either, and you will study them in 11th grade. But I mention them here because the Iroquois settled upstate New York. The Onondagas, the Cayugas, the Senecas, the Mohawks, I'm leaving one out. Okay, well, the Five Nations, they were here. D. And that D is also where you are. I guess D is also here. So this is basically the Iroquois, and you and Jordan Elbridge are right. Need another color here. Right about here. Jordan Elbridge, Central New York. But wait, there's an E, the Inca. The Inca were not in North America. they were in South America. So let's see how we can draw that. I'm going to move this off to the side for the moment. Step 1, South America, it's way easier. Start up about here, do a little diagonal line here, here, down to this point here, up and here. South America's got a simpler shape. So basically if you can draw these 5 lines and then kind of draw within it, you got something that's pretty close to South America. Now we're going to add some geographic features. We've got the Gulf of Mexico. We don't have the Gulf of Mexico, Mr. Price. Gee, what are you trying to teach these kids? Erase. But we do have the Caribbean Sea. It is also correct to say Caribbean. They are both correct. Caribbean Sea, and that is 9. Andes Mountains are right here, 10. And the Amazon River Basin, surrounded by the world's largest rainforest, is 11. And for our purposes, that's all we need to know in South America, except, of course, we go back to the Inca. The Inca were centered in what is now Peru, right about here, E. Pretty big area right in here. And I'm just going to point out that the equator, I'm doing a little bit of a guess here because my map is not very good. The equator is right about here, a little bit farther south than that. Oops. Let's take a look at a real map. Mr. Price has real maps here. Yeah, this was so I could see if I was on the screen. We can make that go away. High technology around here. Equator. That was pretty close. I'm going to put my line back where it was. Now, why I mention the equator here is that the Inca, really interesting civilization, they lived in the mountains. We have not looked at anyone who developed an early civilization in the mountains. I guess you could sort of say Greece, but Greece was in the valleys between the mountains, and they were mostly seafaring. So the Incas actually lived in the mountains, and usually if you're up in the mountains, it's cold. But because they were close to the equator, they actually had a huge variety of climate that included some warm places. And I'm going to be posting a second video that is about what is called vertical climate. And that will explain how the Andes were able to survive and thrive in a desert location. So at this point, you should have North America and South America. They line up something like this. Yeah, maybe that. So if you can do this, you know all of the geography that you would need to know for any upcoming hint, quiz, or test on the American civilizations. So you've got this to reference back to and follow along and practice and study. That's it for this. Hopefully I can get it onto YouTube and link it to my class. We'll see ya. Bye.